dare.
Seems very formal,
Jesus.
doesn't it?
Seems really weird. I mean, you just left the house.
I know. Well, it feels weird, you know? I mean, I haven't seen you since I left the house. We're streaming through this Riverside to LinkedIn, and there's a 30-second delay, so I'm waiting for the technology to catch up. Then it's, huh?
I said, oh.
And all right, so this is catching up. Okay, it's in. We're good. So we're still learning the technology. So there's that. Two is we're playing around with the name. Do you want to explain Radar Love?
No. Not like the personal reason it is there, but the song Radar Love. Do 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 do
All
do.
right, we'll give the G-rated version, which is Rachel and I have talked quite a bit about, if we ever joined forces and we were creating a new company, what we would call it. RA, first two initials of her name, DAR, first three of mine. So Radar. We joke that, if it was a radar coaching company, we could probably have some logo of a radar, what's on your radar. This expanded into some X-rated stuff, which we won't go into. But we are playing around with the name of our LinkedIn Live. So Radar Love today, going to talk about the secret to thriving relationships and leadership. And this is all centered around agreements. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah. We had to learn this the hard way. And I'm glad we did, because then we can obviously take it and deliver it and teach it and coach it to our clients, especially those clients that are family-owned businesses or like us, where partners are in business together. I think this is essential. All right.
Yes.
So agreements. What does that mean?
Wait, we have to do the dad joke.
Oh, sorry, I jumped the gun. See,
All right,
I'm
dad
grouchy.
joke.
I'm grouchy today. I'm like, let's go. Let's get this done with. Let's go.
Yeah.
I'm edgy.
Well, I have something I want to share too on that topic, not about your edginess, but about my own, which is related to this topic.
Oh.
All right, so first, the dad joke. Why was Tigger in the toilet? Because he was looking for poo.
See, I know that one because
You know,
Leva told it to us last
wow,
night.
that was this morning.
That one I can get.
All right, so let me just share this real world story. And this is partly of it, Rachel, but part you don't. So for those listening, I'm a practitioner and I'm a certified positive intelligence coach. I went through the PQ program in 2020. I was the cohort number 1 that went through this program, and I invested as an early investor into the program. There were agreements, contractual agreements, verbal contractual agreements that myself and other pioneers, that's what we're called, we invested into. So we invested as a pioneer with an upfront investment that gave us lifetime access under certain terms, agreements. Twice in 4 years, the man who created the program has tried changing those contracts, those agreements, one of which he wanted to change based upon feedback. He was like, all right, you guys are correct. I won't change that agreement. The other agreement that he changed is debatable, so I'll give him that one. Most recently, as in right this morning, I got an email, or I'm in conversation with someone, a decision maker at Positive Intelligence. They are materially changing the terms of the investment, and they're trying to play this fucking game of bullshit, saying, well, we never said that, and we did this, and we did that, and yes, we see what you're saying, but, and I quote, he said, I cannot do anything about it. It being the material change to the agreement to which I invested in. So I am fired up. I'm pretty pissed off. I'm going to try to keep myself in check because I certainly curse a lot when I am pissed off. But talk about agreements and the trust and the integrity built on those agreements eroded. And the only way that this can be made right is if the people at Positive Intelligence rescind this change and go back to what they agreed to.
Ooh, this has been a thing for you. This has been an ongoing thing for you and the PQ community. And so, look, agreements need to change. They need to evolve. They need to stay relevant. And sometimes you have internal agreements like you and I, and some of my clients where we're like, I know I agreed to this 2 years ago, but it doesn't work for me now. So allowing space to evolve is really important. However, when commitments and promises are made from a contractual standpoint like that will erode your trust. 100%.
Yes. Yeah. I was just thinking for a moment about when an agreement is changed materially, both sides need to agree to the change.
Yes.
And this is where it gets a little complicated with the positive intelligence people, because they're making the change, which of course they're entitled to in their business, except for, in my opinion and the opinion of others, it was contractual. It being the things we agreed to. They're changing that contract and they're basically saying, too bad, deal with it. We never told you that. They've almost verbatim said, we never told you the agreement would not evolve. And this is part of that evolution.
And as to your point, it was the decision and the agreement change was made in a silo.
Correct.
And that is the problem.
Correct.
Yes. Okay. Sorry you're going through that. Sorry for everybody going through it, from the inaugural, or what is it, the OGs of the positive intelligence. Like, I don't know. Wait, you all call yourselves.
Sure.
That sucks though. That I'm sorry. That's really frustrating. And also, we always look at things, if we're going to use the positive intelligence mindset, what is the gift?
Hard to see it yet.
I guess from my perspective, the gift is a reminder is not to screw our clients over like that.
Okay.
I'll take that as the gift.
I'll take that. I don't think it's, like the crime suits the punishment type of thing. Like, I think I could have learned that gift different than having, the hood pulled over me, or whatever that saying is.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about how we got to the place of creating agreements in our relationship, personally and in business. Take the floor.
All right. For those listening, I highly recommend, and let me point out, I do know the difference between suggest and recommend. So I highly recommend, if you are in a romantic relationship, consider looking at a book called Fair Play by Eve Rodsky. And in that book is a checklist of the things, the duties, the responsibilities, the tasks that happen in a household. Here's the context, and keep me honest here because I don't remember the details as well as you do maybe, is someone introduced the book to me. I think I came home and told you about the book. I think you got the book. Then we went through this checklist and put initials next to what you did, what I did, and then we put both of our initials next to things we both did. And it was a tally, it was a checklist. Everything from dishes, shopping, getting birthday presents, bathing the children, all of the things that happen in a household. And in no uncertain terms, it was clear that you did more than I did.
Weird. So weird.
So real quick, the reason I recommend anyone listening to go through this book is because it was the most objective and fair way for Rachel and I to see how our house was divided in terms of who did what. And it was the easiest way for us to try to fair it up, make it more equal.
Yeah. It was a game changer.
Agreed.
Mainly because how can you dispute data? How can you dispute facts? And I think it was eye-opening for you. So anyway, about the fair play, then what happened? We had to create agreements around who's doing what in our household. Now, this was before we became business partners. So the agreements were not just, okay, you're taking the birthday party. The agreement was you're taking the birthday party, but you're taking it from conception to close and everything that happens in between. And I think that's an important piece there too, because unless the agreement is clear, there's going to be interpretations and assumptions. And quite frankly, on my side, there would be this desire to over control and make sure everything is teed up. And then you just get to show up for the birthday party with the cake and the presents and be like the hero. And then I've done all the pre-planning and the work and the thinking about it. So agreements are more than just, oh, you're taking the birthday party. It is literally what is everything involved in this process. And you will oversee it. By this time, I can back off and be free of mind that this is going to be taken care of, and I don't have to manage it, or vice versa, if I said I was going to take something. So it started there. Sorry, I interjected.
No. No, there's no apology necessary. I was just thinking about real world. Like, what are we talking about? And here's what I mean. You and I would have these ongoing debates, disagreements,
Fights.
as simple and as seemingly small as vacuuming. And this was really like the tip of the spear for the two of us. So for further context is we had 2 dogs at the time. My dog Marvin shedded more than any other dog we've ever known. So we had Marvin and Benton, who's a golden. Marvin was a cattle dog mix. So there was dog hair everywhere, in addition to all the dirt and the stuff that we track into the house. And on a daily basis, if not multiple times a day, you would be vacuuming, and you would be frustrated that I didn't. Now, as unbelievable as this may sound, it is the truth, which is I just didn't see the hair. Like, I'd walk in and it's not like I scanned the room and saw the hair and I was like, oh, there's hair on the ground. It needs to get vacuumed. Rachel will do it. There was just never a thought process of having to vacuum.
I feel angry inside just hearing this. I mean, honest to God, I'm getting hot and I'm like, what the fuck? Well, come on. So sorry, go ahead.
No, but it's the truth.
It's
that's
totally the truth.
So this illustrates the point, right? Is you had an expectation that I saw what you saw, and I didn't. And so you would be then often secretly angry at me because I didn't see what you saw. I wasn't carrying my weight in the house. There was a quote unquote implicit expectation that I would just vacuum, but we never explicitly talked about it, and it would be an argument. So the way that we've now mitigated this argument is through fair play, by identifying, quite frankly, in our house, Rachel does all the vacuuming, I do all the laundry, just as one separation of things. Because as we looked at that list, we saw who was doing what, where we were willing to negotiate, and then we, I don't want to say solve the problem, but that's how we started to get really clear on who is responsible for what is the expectation upon completion, quality of standard, or standard of quality, time frame. And also, as the agreement has evolved, and again, I'll be granular with the laundry, but please know, like, we're going to expand this to leadership, is if the laundry is starting to pile up, or if you have an article of clothing you want washed, you say, hey babe, will you do the laundry please? I need that white tank top clean.
Speaking up, which is what we're going to talk about next week. Yes, which goes to our take 5, is set clear boundaries. Who's doing what? When are you going to do it? What's the responsibility, right? And that goes for yourself and to the other person, right? Because it's not just, I'm going to make these agreements to this other person. And I hear this a lot with my clients, is like, it's so easy to make commitments and agreements to other people, but it's really hard to hold them for myself. So make sure when you're making agreements that you're also making them with yourself. Like you said, I'm going to do the laundry start to finish, top to bottom. I need something. I open up my mouth. I speak it. I say it. I ask, and it's done. But you had to make the internal agreement with yourself of what you could and couldn't do and when you could do it by. So it's not always this outward external agreement making. It's also internal, which relates to the boundaries, which is the take 5, number 1, create clear boundaries.
I have a Darrenism on this, and I use it quite a bit with my clients. Actually, you taught me about it at first. It was, what's the parenting thing you told me about?
Love and logic.
Love and Logic.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's where it started from. So bear with me. Let me tell this quick story. I'm probably not going to have the facts exactly right, but you'll get the gist of the story. So when I did a little bit of research on Love and Logic, I happened upon some experiment that scientists did with children. Now, all the children were safe. No one was at harm. All the things were on the up and up. So these scientists had all these kids, let's say they were 8 years old, and brought them into an open field. Parents came and dropped all the kids off. Parents said goodbye. Kids were perfectly safe. The scientists said, kids, go play. And what the scientists found is that the kids kind of congregated near-ish each other. Like no one went too far away. That was experiment 1. The next day, same kids, same parents, drop off the kids, say goodbye. They're perfectly safe. This time, they put the kids in the same field, but there was a barrier, a fence around the field. And the scientists said, go play. Well, what they found was the kids went everywhere within that fenced-in area, climbing the fence, in the court, wherever. And it didn't matter how far they were from their friends because they were safe with that perimeter. Those are the boundaries. And here's the Darrenism that I talk about at work is when you know the boundaries of your job, whether you are the leader or an individual contributor, when the boundaries, the rules of engagement, the guardrails of your job are well defined, you are free to play within them. When there are no boundaries, you don't know what your authority level is on approving expenses. You don't know what your authority is on delegating to others. You don't know where your job ends and someone else's begins. There's just no rules of engagement, and you got to figure it out. The last point that I'll make, and I'm curious what you think about this, is the mindset, the mental state, the internal narrative, etc. Right? If we talk about the laundry and the vacuuming, or the guardrails for leadership is, I am free of mind to know that when I walk in the house, I don't have to worry about the vacuum. And as messed up as it may sound, is if you're vacuuming around me, right, I might just literally pick up my legs, but that's part of the rules. We agreed to that.
This is true, you all. He just like picks up his feet as he continues to play on his phone, and I vacuum around. But in defense, when you're down in the laundry room and you're putting things in and I walk by and I'm like, oh, cool, he's got that. I don't actually think about it. I don't even think like, oh, cool, he's got that. I'm like, I think nothing.
It's not even a thought.
It's not even a thought.
Same.
Yes.
And that's the point of these boundaries. When the agreement is super clear, we've agreed to the things, we've modified the agreement, we've allowed our brains to be free of this task. We know you've got it. I know you're going to vacuum. You know I got the laundry. When I delegate a task to someone that I trust and I have clear boundaries with, I know it's going to be done. The same with leaders and organizations whom we coach, right? So it's the importance of these guardrails and these boundaries so people understand what's expected of them.
Absolutely, which is like number 2, develops trust. But before we go out of the boundary thing, I was just thinking for my clients, a lot of women, is more related to their internal boundaries of not overdoing. So the boundary of not micromanaging somebody else, not taking responsibility of something, let me rephrase that. That was incorrect. Not jumping in to save or to take something off someone's plate that doesn't belong to them. Like their boundary of this is my role and responsibility as a leader. I do not go, my agreement with myself is that I don't go and overfunction in somebody else's lane, guardrail, fence, if we're going to use the Love and Logic science experiment. So internally with yourself, make the agreements, create the boundary, hold them with yourself and with your team and with your partner, if you have one at home, to go into number 2, which is it develops trust. When everyone is clear on the expectation, agreements have been laid out, people follow through on them, there's a level of trust that happens that you can't hire that. I always say, like, I used to have a VA and I was like, she's loyal. You can't hire loyal. That's something that is developed over time, and trust is developed over time through these agreements, through these boundaries, through communication, through what we talked about last week, implicit and explicit agreements, through speaking up, which we're going to talk about next week. So when you, we've had some agreements that have not been honored, and it broke our trust. And that was absolute shit to try to get out of. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat that. When trust is broken, it's a long road to get out of that, if you can even get out of it. When have you experienced that?
I have 3 comments.
Of course.
I hope I'll answer your question. So the first is, I listened to part of a book by one of the Stephen Coveys, and it's called The Speed of Trust. And in the book, he explains that trust is a combination of integrity and competence. Integrity relates to the person. So as you were saying, you can't hire for loyalty. And to an extent, you're right. Like, loyalty is something that's part of someone's integral makeup. So integrity. And then competence is, do you trust them to do the job? So that's 1. 2, related to the laundry, but then also related to our trust issues, challenges, is we had clear boundaries on the laundry, and I know how to do laundry, but unfortunately, your clothes are a little more delicate than mine. And unfortunately, I have shrunken expensive sweaters. I have dried things that shouldn't have been dried, et cetera, et cetera. So part of the trust was that even with clear boundaries, mistakes are going to be made. So as a leader of an organization, as a partner, you've got to allow the mistake to happen. I had to own it, right? Imagine I was like, I didn't do it, right? Where's the integrity of me pretending I didn't shrink the sweater? So the trust that I can come to you and say, hey, I screwed up. How do I make it right? Do I buy you a new sweater? Do we let this one go, et cetera? And then the trust of learning, not making the same mistake over and over, et cetera, et cetera. So that was the second comment. The third is very related to what you were saying about the erosion of trust. Is, unfortunately, I had a dad who now passed, and he modeled lying and trying to work the system to my benefit, and taking 13 rolls off the hot thing at the Rockland Bakery as opposed to 12, and telling them we only took 10, right? Like, this is the stuff we did. So I have lied to you, and it eroded trust. People in the workplace lie and erode trust. Certain leaders that I coach are doing these little tests of trust, but they don't tell the person that they're testing their trust. And so they're doing these secret little tests and waiting for you to pass or fail. And often there's a failure, and then it's like, oh, I knew it. I couldn't trust this person. They failed. And so the last thing I'll say, and then I'll stop talking for a minute, is on the explicit and implicit, what I've been coaching some clients on is, how do people earn your trust? How do they erode it? And then how do you allow them to repair it? And are you explicitly telling them that? Them being your new hire, your direct report, your colleague, etc. Because if it's not spoken, it is then implicit. And the first moment someone breaks an implicit trust or an implicit expectation or an implicit agreement, it's one-sided. I didn't know, well, not in our instance, but in some of my leaders' instances, the person that eroded the trust didn't even know it.
So it's almost like a gotcha.
It's 100% a gotcha.
What is the benefit of that?
There is no benefit. Other than, I think, there's some self-protectionism. There is some sort of like, it's just a test. I don't know what, there is no purpose other than some sort of, I don't know, not gratification, but I don't know, maybe some people earn or allow you to earn their trust from you not even knowing it. Right? Maybe there's something in, if I don't tell you that I expect this and then you meet it, like, oh my God, they met my expectation. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what the intention is.
So what just came up for me there was the importance of not. Okay, so this is still formulating in my brain, so stay with me because I'm not as succinct as you. But the importance of not dragging in past violations, if you will, into new relationships. Relationships at work and at home, it doesn't matter, life, personal or professional. So maybe you had experience in the past with people violating trust. Maybe it was because agreements weren't clear. Maybe it was because you didn't speak your agreements. Doesn't matter why it happened, but there was a violation of trust. And the importance of every new relationship is the opportunity to start fresh. Now, I'm not a big believer of just turn on the trust switch. That doesn't exist in my world. However, I did drag in past trust issues, right? From my marriage, from my high school boyfriend, from my father, like my stepfather, the list goes on, men in particular, into our relationship. So the moment you broke trust, you were automatically lumped into that category. Therefore, you were equal to them, all the violators of this. And I think that when you're talking about this trust and having the agreements and not setting people up is important to reset the clock, if you will, or start from a neutral playing field with each relationship. So then maybe you're not creating this, see, I gotcha. All men do this. All women do that. All relationships do that. I think that would have been helpful for you and I, professionally and personally, but we started off personal, right? And then we had to figure it out professionally as well. I think we're better at it professionally. Getting there. So,
Getting there.
okay.
Yeah.
So I know you have to jump off a little bit early today. So let's look at, we've got 3, 4, and 5. Maximizes time, reduces conflict, and encourages mutual support. So maximizes time, I think that's super easy, right? Like when you and we're in this right now. We're trying to figure out how to do this LinkedIn Live project. We did not have clear agreements. Who's doing what? Why? What does it look like? When does it need to be done by? What's your role? What's my role? Blah, 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 blah. We have spent more time on this than you and I would like. Now it's all learning tax. It's learning time. But had we, quite frankly, taken our own coaching and applied this, which we're doing now, we would have got there faster. Less bumps, less confusion. I mean, part of the reason I was like crabby, right, is because I got on the call. I'm like, what do you mean you don't understand what this, like, I was so frustrated and annoyed about this process. And so when you have clear agreements on who's doing what, there's not overlap. There's not somebody going all the way down the road, getting to the finish line, and then being like, you looking at them and saying, well, this isn't even close to what I was thinking. And I was doing this over, constantly starting over. Get out of each other's way, make your lane, get it done, have your checkpoints, create the trust it's getting done. You can go so much faster.
What you described is the essence of that book, The Speed of Trust. It uses the example of an airport pre and post 9/11. Pre 9/11, I could walk to the gate and wait for you. Getting in on it, you could arrive at the airport 30 minutes before your flight, not really worry about going through security. And nowadays, what they say, 2 hours before a flight. So that speed of distrust has greatly slowed progress. So I'll make another point about trust and move to the time piece, which is one of my earlier HR mentors taught me API, assumed positive intent. To the contrary, I used to assume negative intent. I assumed you were trying to screw me over, you were trying to screw me up, You didn't want me to succeed. It was a lot of negative thought. And so my brain was constantly in overdrive of questioning your intentions, wondering why you did what you did, et cetera, et cetera. For you and I, even though we have disagreements and sometimes deep disagreements, I trust you love me, you care about me, you have my best interests in mind, and you're not doing something sinister. And even though I get real upset sometimes, like when I really like check in with myself, it's like the conversation is, she's not doing this on purpose to hurt you. So stop thinking that, which then speeds up the time to produce, to excel, to succeed, to accomplish, to achieve, etc. So maximizing the time is when we have clear boundaries, we know who's doing what, we agree to this, that, and the other. We have a time frame, we have whatever elements we can come up with for a process, a thing, the next steps, etc. It moves fast because neither one of us is questioning who's doing what and when and where and how. It is, you got this, I got that. All right, let's reconvene tomorrow and let's see how it's going. So 100%, knowing the boundaries, trusting the other person has positive intent, without a doubt, maximizes the time. Doesn't mean there's not hiccups. It doesn't mean that there might be some delays, but it maximizes time, maximizes process, maximizes progress.
And I think through this whole LinkedIn Live, we've been talking about the conflict that can occur when agreements are not clear, openly expressed, and everybody agrees. It's not a one way. Because number 4 is reduces conflict. Well, of course, right? This is the whole thing that we're talking about here. So I had something on that I was going to tell you, and I totally forgot it. So I hope it comes back with the conflict. Oh, I think the key word there, and I think everybody is smart enough to know this, but it's reduces, not eliminate.
Yes.
And you just alluded to that too, right? There's going to be hiccups, of course. There's going to be conflict, of course. You're going to need to iterate a few times, especially in a newer relationship, to really figure it out. And what does Brene Brown say? Like FFTs, assume conflict. Fucking first time is what Brene Brown says. Assume conflict. Don't make it a problem, like you're saying, right? Even though you're angry inside, then go back to the assume positive intent. Like we're trying to get to the same finish line. We're trying to accomplish the same goals here. So reduce conflict is important, not eliminate. And then encourages mutual support, right? Understanding, what do I need from you? I think these agreements also open up just dialogue in general. It creates a safe platform, a safe space, if you want coach speak, to ask for what you need without retaliation or feeling dumb or like kind of like, I don't know, but I don't want to ask. Like it's so clear. And then you can help, then you know each other's lanes and you can help each other out. Again, check in with your own internal boundaries. Don't do it out of obligation or this desire to over control. You do it because you know that you can, and you've got the bandwidth and you've got the space, and it falls within your own internal agreements with yourself.
I was smiling. Our friend Tim Muir just said we're badasses. Thank you, Tim.
Oh, Tim, where are you seeing this? I'm not seeing this.
I have the stream open, so I'm monitoring on the other screen.
Oh, hi, Tim. Thanks.
Another perspective on the mutual support. Shit, did I just lose it? Hey, man, I lost it.
We're fading. We need a snack.
I have snacks. Here's a story that's part of so I have a client that had an employee, and it's the client I mentioned earlier who was doing these secret tests of trust. The person, the direct report, failed each time. Now, mind you, there's also an element of this story where this direct report did not have the competency, the skill set, the maturity to succeed in the role. But my client also wasn't forthright or forthcoming with where this person was falling short, what her expectations were, Trust was eroded. It was never communicated. There was never any communication of how to repair it. Moving forward is that direct report was terminated. A new hire was just brought on board. And my client now has done the exact opposite. And she has communicated, here's how you earn my trust. Here's how you keep my trust. Here's how you're going to erode it. And if it erodes, here's how we have to work on repair. This is what I expect of you. Go into those boundaries and agreements. On the forefront of this new relationship, she is doing her best to establish these rules of engagement, the levels of trust required, the standards of quality, etc. And TBD, we'll see how it pans out. But out of the gate, she said it feels better. She didn't say she's sleeping better, but she's got less narrative going on upstairs. She's allowing this person to do their job with her guidance, but not her meddling, which is a difference. Really cool story so far.
As you're saying that, and I know we got to wrap up because you have to go, and I was thinking about the clients that I work with. Leadership, of course, but life and leadership. Everything that you just said there is so applicable to home life, equity in running the home, agreements within your marriage, your partnership, your relationship. Like, it's so applicable because so many women I work with are not doing this, and then they are carrying the load at home, invisible and visible, and then they're resentful, and then they're burned out, and then they're like, I can't have this big career and run a home, so I might as well leave my career, and they're still not happy because they're not fulfilled. Like, it's this vicious cycle. And I just wanted to say, like, that can stop and that can change. You and I proved it, and hundreds and thousands of couples out there prove it. The other thing is, this is also applicable to parenting, right? When Paxton and Lila go out, where are you going? Who are you going with? What's your exit strategy if you need it? What time will you be back? When are the check-ins going to occur? What happens if this agreement is not met? And then there's your fence, as you're saying, go out and be you, but do it within these parameters that you have agreed to, we have agreed to, and prove the trust, earn the trust from both sides, right? We're not going to get all up in their shit and be like, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? And tracking them on the live 360 or whatever that is. We don't even have that. And constantly micromanaging what they're doing. That's not going to they're not going to feel trust with us that they're like, oh, you got me, and vice versa. So these agreements are key. They are essential to creating the trust, to creating the boundaries, to accomplishing, whatever it is you're trying to accomplish much more quickly with less conflict, the ability to speak up if you need support. Like, these are the foundation of any relationship, personal or professional. So I highly encourage everybody to try it. I mean, put it on the chat. We're happy to share our experiences, and we're not perfect by any means. We still F this up so many times, but we know how to repair quickly, and we know we have the tools. So we're happy to share that wisdom with any of you. So please leave it in the comments if we'd love to hear your thoughts. All right, 9:55, you said you had to go.
All right, real quick, I have a comment.
Of course you do.
Of course. In a relationship, both parties have to be willing to compromise and possibly change or modify behavior. Same holds true in the workforce. As a leader, you have to be willing to acknowledge and accept your influence on the team when it is succeeding, and especially when it is not. To pick up on something you put down, to be a little more personal, is as you speak with and coach a lot of women in leadership roles who are often the matriarch of their nuclear family, in some of the stories you've shared, the husband in the story is unwilling to change or even hear that they might be a problem in their house.
Yes.
In which
Nailed
case,
it, Darren. Nailed it.
in which case, you men need to look in the mirror and knock that shit off. Each of us, male and female, regardless of which tendency we fall on, are an influence in everything in our life. If someone in our life is unhappy and they're saying it's partly because of us, there is truth to that. So I'm going a little bit too far into my narrative. Point being is that in the stories you share with me, Rachel, a lot of the women you coach communicate to you in some way, shape, or form their husband is unwilling to change. And then by default, it is 100% on the woman to figure out how to solve the problem without support of their husband. That is absurd.
That's bullshit. That's not a partnership.
Hands down.
There's trust is, I mean, we could go, that could be a whole LinkedIn Live in itself, but I want to go back to you said that you said you called these men out. Knock that shit off. That is why I love you. That is why I trust to partner with you. And that when I come to you and say, I need this, you drop everything. The other day where I was doing the dishes and I said, I'm frustrated. And you literally stopped whatever you were doing and turned and looked at me like, okay, how can I help? About what? Everything else stopped for you. And that is why I trust you, I partner with you, and I love you. So thank you for saying that.
Thanks, babe.
You're welcome.
That was a nice note to end on.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
See you all next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday. Okay. Nice job.
100% off LinkedIn?
It seems, yes.